Good evening. Welcome to the City of Opa-Locka Commission meeting. This is a virtual meeting based upon emergency orders. Madam Attorney, could you please state the protocols that govern this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 issued by Governor Ron DeSantis on March the 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technologies such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 5B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this evening are Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, and Commissioner Kelly, and Mayor Pygott. An opportunity was given to the public to email the city clerk prior to the commission meeting with any questions, comments, concerns on items we will hear on this evening's emergency, on this evening's agenda. This meeting is being streamed live at https://www.youtube.com user City of Opa-Locka. And as of 7:00 p.m., the clerk will announce as to whether there were any speakers who signed up. Madam Clerk, will you please announce if you have any speakers for this meeting at this time?
Mr. Mayor, we have no speakers at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Madam Attorney. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass?
Here.
Commissioner Burke?
Here.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Kelly? I'm sorry, Commissioner Kelly?
All right, looks like he's having.
I'm present.
Thank you. Mayor Pygott?
I'm here. All right, Commissioner Bass, could you lead us in invocation?
Father, we thank you for this is truly a day that you have made, and we will continue to be glad in it. God, we give you all honor, we give you glory. Father God, we acknowledge you, oh God, as being head of our life. God, we just come before you today, this afternoon, praying your blessings, Father God, that you would lead us, guide us, Father God. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and revelation. Bless our community in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Burke, could you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
and justice for all.
All right. All right. Madam Clerk, do we have any awards, proclamations, or acknowledgements?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge actually Vice Mayor Davis, who was on the Miami-Dade County's Beacon Council New Leaders Task Force earlier today, talking about the challenges that local municipalities are having, and represented the city very well. So much respect, Vice Mayor Davis. I was watching along with quite a few others in Opa-Locka. So much respect for representing us. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Let's move on to the approval of the consent agenda and pull list. Do we have any pulls, deletions, or deferrals?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
yes, I want to pull number 1.
Okay. Any other pulls, deletions, or deferrals? All right. Madam Attorney, Madam Clerk, was that noted?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda and pull list?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Pygott?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we do have an add-on item.
You're right about that. Could you present the add-on item?
Yes, this item would be added to the agenda as 14.1, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, approving a settlement agreement in the matter, the Brown Law Group LLC versus City of Opa-Locka, attached hereto as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to take necessary action, providing for an effective date, and this item is sponsored by the city manager.
All right. Do I have a motion, or Mr. Manager, could you state for the record the emergency requirements for financial emergency requirements for this item?
So as the commission is aware, we have pending litigation with the Brown Law Group in regards to funds that the city has owed. After the city reviewed the case, it is deemed that we do owe the funds to the Brown Law Group in a manner to attempt to resolve this in an amicable manner. It is my recommendation that this matter is brought before the commission today for approval, so we can make an immediate payment, the down payment to the Brown Law Group effective May 15th, 2020.
Right, do I have a motion to add this onto the item, to agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Burke. Madam, any discussion on that add-on? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pickett.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move it.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass, second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pickett.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the virtual regular commission meeting minutes for April 22nd, 2020.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Move it.
Oh, well, moved by Commissioner Kelly. All right.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pickett.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
A motion to approve the virtual special commission meeting minutes for April 30th, 2020.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Mayor Pickett.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Do we have a report from District 1 or 2?
No report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, let's move on to public presentation. Mr. Manager, would you like to introduce our presenter for today?
I'd like to introduce Ms. Jessica Garrett-Motkins, President, Hip Rock Star LLC. She's doing a representative in regards to a public relations and marketing campaign that we're attempting to do with COVID-19 in regards to awareness. And I'll leave the floor to Ms. Motkins.
All right, thank you, Ms. Motkins. Do you have the ability to share your screen, Ms. Motkins?
Yes, I do.
All right, I'm going to stop the share so you can do so. You have the floor, Ms. Motkins.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you, Mr. Pate. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Commission, for allowing me to be able to present to you this evening on COVID-19 PR and marketing strategies. I am very honored because I started my career in the city of Opa-Locka in 1993 by being the news director at WEDR 99 Jams. And actually that was during a crisis. We were recovering from Hurricane Andrew. So there's a lot of emotion that's going on with me tonight to be able to come back and assist the same community. Hip Rock Star began in the early 2000s. We're headquartered in South Miami. Some of our honors that we've received are: in 2017, we received the Key to the County. In 2017, we also received a Marketing of the Year from BOMA. In 2017, we graduated from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. In 2018, BOMA announced that we were the Marketing Firm of the Year again. In 2019, we were nominated as a Small Business of the Year for the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. And this year we were chosen by the NFL to be their marketing and PR firm for their community outreach. We are a full service advertisement, marketing, and communications firm. On average, advertisement spends are around $400,000. We reach 1.6 million radio listeners with commercials. TV commercials are around 200 commercials per year, and we reach around 109,000 people online. Some of our clients, the National Football League, as I stated before, Miami-Dade County, City of North Miami, City of Homestead, City of Miramar, and the Morning Family Foundation. We're certified in DBE with the Florida Unified Certification Program, Miami-Dade County. We're an SBE firm certified with Miami-Dade County and Miami-Dade County Public Schools and Broward County Public Schools. And we're MWBE certified with Miami-Dade County Public Schools and Broward County Public Schools. But while we're here today, we are here to try to assist you with your relief efforts in getting the word out about COVID-19 to the city of Opa-Locka residents. Today, the Florida Health Department reports that there are 157 positive cases in the city of Opa-Locka. Our objective with putting together a communication and marketing strategy will be to assist you and get all of your residents informed in regards to COVID-19 in real time. The immediate objective will be to address truth to rumor on COVID-19 with African Americans, and other high topic information on COVID-19 would be in regards to emergency orders, COVID-19 testing locations, employment and business assistance, as well as food assistance and services. Some of the tactics that we would use to get this information out would be all of your social media platforms, press releases, newsletters, telephone, text alerts, telephone messaging, and calls. Our next steps would be to meet with each one of you individually, determine what you deem as the gaps with your constituents and how we will be able to address those, and work together to come up with a unified voice and vision to be able to communicate that information to your residents. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Mockins. Really appreciate that. It is inspiring to hear that you started off in the city of Opa-Locka. That's pretty awesome. I'll open the floor to my commission. Any questions or comments for Ms. Mockins? All right, hearing none. I want to thank you, Ms. Mockins, for being able to present to us today. And we shall move on with the agenda. Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, as stated earlier, we have citizens forum. And at the moment, as the clerk stated, there aren't any, move that round. There we go. Public comments, is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So without citizens forum, I strongly encourage our citizens to please take advantage of the public comments at opalockafl.gov to make sure that your voices are heard during this time. We want to make sure the public is engaged in these meetings because there's significant decisions that are being made. So please email your comments to publiccomments@opalockafl.gov as we begin to figure out other ways in which we can get citizens engaged during this crisis. So with that said, let's move on to the action item. I believe it's 13A1, Madam Attorney.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into an emergency agreement with Hip Hop Rock Star LLC for public relations and marketing services in an amount not to exceed $15,000 as set forth in Exhibit A, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
All right. Do I have a motion on this item?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second for discussion.
second by Commissioner Burke. Mr. Manager, would you like to introduce this item?
Mr. Mayor, this is for a short-term agreement not to exceed 90 days for Hip Rock Star LLC to assist the city in public communication in regards to COVID-19, both education as well as identifying gaps in communication in regards to various segments of our constituency within the city of Opa-Locka. Ms. Modkins has already provided a presentation detailing her services. I will take any questions from any commission members on this item at this time.
All right, Commissioner Kelly, you pulled the item, so you have the floor.
Pardon me?
I say you pulled the item, so I wanted to allow you to.
Oh, we're gonna do that now. Let's be consistent every meeting. I pull it, let me go first. Whoever pulls it does it. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. I'll go first. Mr. Manager, to the manager. How did we come across hip hop rock?
So I had discussions with 3 marketing organizations in regards to media messaging in regards to the COVID-19 crisis that we're having, discussing gaps in communication. This is early on in dealing with our COVID-19 situation prior to our number of cases being the number that it is now. I know it was the city's intent to do a long-term media and marketing services. As you all know, it takes an extended period of time to solicit RFPs. I felt that it was prudent that we engage an organization to assist the city with its communications in regards to COVID-19. It's number 1, more of education. Number 2, dealing with the various segments of the community. And number 3, having a media and marketing plan for the city to try to build that blueprint moving forward for a short-term basis until we're able to concurrently actually do RFP, put the RFP out on the street in regards to media and marketing services on a more permanent basis on behalf of the city.
Well, here's my challenge. If you had all of that thought process prior to, in my opinion, you had enough time to go out for an emergency RFP to secure services. There's nothing against this company or this firm, but based on what you're saying, you had plenty of time to go out for an emergency RFP. I don't like when we get things that are supposed to be emergency that one company, because there are a lot of companies that have done business with the city in the past that are actually much closer in proximity. Again, nothing against this applicant, but actually has understanding, in my opinion, of better the city because they worked with the city in the past. So that's number 1. Number 2, if I understand correctly, this $15,000 over 90 days will come out of other professional services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think that was a yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Pate, your mic is having some difficulties. Let's see if you gotta restart your mic and audio. No, we cannot hear you clearly.
Can I be heard now?
No, we'll probably have to log
I'm
out.
right back in. Give me a moment. I'm back less than 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
How's my audio being heard?
We can hear you loud and clear.
I'm sorry about that. I'll have Nelson look at my computer. It seems like it happens every meeting.
Thank you, sir. All right, Commissioner Kelly, you still have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Manager, you were answering, I think you said,
Yes, sir.
yes, it's other professional services.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is that the same line item that we have to secure consultants and or emergency orders for things dealing with the infrastructure or lift stations? Isn't that the same line item you usually use for those kind of services?
I can have our budget person speak on that. I know that this specific item, there's a specific budget approved for marketing and PR services for the amount of $45,000. So, and that's what's coming out. It's coming out of that specific pot of money. It's not coming from or taking from any other services that are already budgeted for.
So this is coming out of, not coming from that particular line item?
No, sir. I have, for clarification, so I'm not misspoken, I asked my budget person to speak on that. Mr. Anathan, can you speak on that for me, please? Robert?
Okay, Mr. Manager, I'll take your word for it. We can move on. I don't want to
Okay, I just
save
want
your time. I'll take your word on that point, that it's different line item. I remember the public relations item. I actually supported the item, but that was with the concept of we were hiring PR overall for the city as a whole. When I look at this at $5,000 a month, basically for 3 months, and when I look at, again, no disrespect to the applicant, she's presented, she does have some credentials, but I have a challenge with how it was done, number one, and number two, $5,000 a month for the services that are going to be provided. Social media, which we already do, in various ways. Press releases, in my opinion, are obsolete and outdated because things change in real time. The newsletters, we all know, even we've had newsletters before, they're very challenging to get to the community, and there's a cost that comes with those in addition to preparation. I did inquire and ask you, we have the capability already for text messaging. Of course, we have the code red and that communication that the mayor himself has used that. So I really don't understand at this point, $5,000 to get a message out when we're already, most of the community really is fixing to open back up. If we were just starting and needed to get out testing locations and various things like that and where to get food, that might be different. But we're actually on the end of that. And testing is known all over because it's on the news, it's in the media, everywhere there is testing, the governor makes sure that that's out there. So I have a real challenge with supporting this item and this form with these limited, in my opinion, this unified message that's conveyed through these mediums or these channels, to me is not worth it at this point. We were talking about the messaging of the city, as was the case we originally proposed doing this. That might be different, but for $5,000 at this point, and we're potentially, as you've mentioned previously, Mr. Manager, looking at staffing and making sure we got equipment and all those things, I cannot see why we engage this at this point in the conversation when we're open back up. And as we've known now, to get the word out in Opa-Locka, it's not that difficult. As I said, and I keep saying, you put those 4 signs in each corner of this city, people will get the message. So I don't know what we're sending to say that we got money to spend $5,000 a month for someone to do public relations with all of the challenges we have and needing to get masks for residents and all kind of other things. If we're going to spend $15,000, then let's do some mini grants to help businesses. Let's do something to help residents with you know, relief for their water bill or something. We got 15 grand just sitting around somewhere. This is budgeted in terms of that line item, but I don't think this is the right way to use these dollars for COVID-19, given where we are. Everybody else, and including us at some point, is going to be opening back up. And it won't take long to get the message out that we're opening up. So I don't think we need public relations to do that. I think at the proper time, at some point, there may be an opportunity to engage this firm going out and going and seeing what's out there, like we originally had planned, to see what we can get for whatever the firm would offer along with others. I don't view this as an emergency that needs to take place now. We got messaging. The mayor did a great job yesterday messaging on Channel 7. We're Opa-Locka, we're here for you. We have been on 7, 410, all the outlets. You know, he's been on several platforms with Zoom, et cetera. All of us are doing our own part to get words and message out. So I cannot see spending 15 grand for 3 months on something this nature. And then we're also talking potentially about restructuring staff, and we hear all the time about not having equipment and all kinds of challenges. I don't think it's a wise use of money at this point, given what we would be getting for such a short period of time, and what the message that we would be conveying that I think we can already do and have the capability to get it out just as effectively for this moment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Through the mayor.
Mr. Manager.
I do want to make one clarification. The contract is not to exceed $15,000. It's not $5,000 a month. It was recommended that we put a not to exceed amount in there. So of course we don't go spend crazy with money that we have budgeted for the remainder of the year. Also, marketing services for the city actually would exceed based on a projection of $45,000, but we're in the middle of a budget year. So we are in the middle of a budget year. This required a budget amendment that was passed by the commission. So this is not for a full budget year. Again, this is a not to exceed amount. This is not a set $5,000 a month amount. There is an issue with messaging. The issue of messaging with our businesses is the issue of messaging with our residents. We still have residents that are not abiding by curfew. We still have residents that are having issues with seeking and obtaining resources. There's a huge messaging issue as far as our businesses. And now we have the county that just put out a blueprint as far as a reopening plan that I don't believe the city would agree with. And we may have to opt out of this reopening plan that the county just put out today in draft form that will be effective on Monday. And so we would have to put out messaging to our businesses that we're not opening contrary to the county's direction. So, you know, I do support some majority of your points of view, Commissioner Kelly, and respect you greatly based on the guidance that you provided me in this specific agenda item. But I do think there is a need for a marketing PR situation here. And when we're talking about putting out RFPs, you all approved the RFP process for engineering services over 3 months ago, and that is still out on the street and has not been concluded. We still have to wait for state approval. There's still a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome. And this specific matter was brought up to the state on an emergent basis, and they actually support the matter in writing. And that's the reason why we're able to put this short-term contract on the agenda today with the state support. Typically, it will go through a process, which everybody already knows, and I'm not trying to educate anybody on, but this is not something, an RFP that would have been quickly put on the street and quickly responded to, because we have RFPs that are currently out there now. There are 2-3 months old that are not even concluded yet. We haven't even gotten the RFP opening yet. One example is the engineering services. Like I said, this commission approved earlier this year, if not in December timeframe last year, that we still haven't concluded. So there are other factors there. So I just want to kind of express that.
Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, I was hoping you didn't go there, Mr. Manager. I really was. First of all, PR relation is much different than an engineering concern given in the middle of a pandemic crisis. Number two, you could have done a emergency order, if you will, to go out for an emergency services and have that come back quicker. You did mention that the state has approved it, and the state approved it because someone went and told them it was necessary and needed. So I don't have a problem if you were going to do that, but I think you got to put it all out there. In returns what the county is doing or whatever, and our message is going to be different to the business people and getting our word out to residents about the things that you mentioned. That's because we have not done a good job with the staffing that we have to get the word out. It had nothing to do with the messaging. And this firm is not going to go out and knock on every business door and say whatever, whatever. They're going to use the same channels based on the presentation that I'm looking at: social media, press releases, newsletters, texts, and phone calls. We already do all of those. I don't see anything different. The reason I said 5,000, because when I look at 15 grand over 3 months, I just broke it down. The legislation that I saw did just said it not to exceed. It didn't say what it is. So if you tell me it's 2,500, I might support that, but I can't support up to 15 grand because I historically know normally the top figure is what winds up being there. And so while I appreciate your comments, I'm still not convinced that we need to spend this kind of money at this point, even though the state approved, because the commissioner already approved a budget item, if you will, for marketing services. And while I realize it's not for the whole year, I think it still sends the wrong message given the challenge we have to say that we're going to spend this kind of money on a public relations that can do the stuff at this moment I feel we can do. If you told me they were going to do something different than what I see here, I could maybe support it, but I don't see anything different they're going to do than what we can do already. But I appreciate your response, and that's how I feel, so I won't respond anymore. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, appreciate it.
All right, any other discussion on this item?
Through the mayor, just.
Hold on, Ms. Perry. Let me get the rest of the commission.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burt.
to the manager. Mr. Manager, this contract will be just for PR for COVID-19?
So what I was gonna state through the mayor is if the commission would like to expand the scope of the services of this contract, and there's any other ideas or anything else that the commission feels that's needed right now that Ms. Mockins can work on, we can still stay within the not to exceed 15,000 range, and we can just amend the exhibit within the contract to add additional items that the commissioner may deem fit.
Mr. No, I'm through.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you. To kind of echo Commissioner Burke's concerns, that was more of my concern too. If the item could actually be amended, or could we? I guess I had a chance to look over the scope, and it really wasn't that that detailed as far as like what type of services will be provided. I know in the past the city has used outlets like the mail. At one point, our water bills was a main venue to get information out to our residents. So I will also like to put that up for consideration if that can be added. But I know that also comes with a cost. And at one point, the administration deemed it not feasible. It didn't make financial sense, so we moved away from it. I guess I just really wanted to be sure that this will lead to some long-term solution. I think we're all in favor of the city having PR and marketing, and the need, especially ahead of what's coming with the COVID-19 crisis, and the need to get that information out. But I just wanted to, I'm okay with the permanent, with the temporary solution, but I wanted to be towards a permanent vision. So that we do have that in mind. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Bass, do you have anything?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna basically echo what Vice Mayor and also Commissioner Kelly said. I think at this point where we are in our COVID situation, there's nothing much left that, in my opinion, we can tell that has not been told via television and however else, the info got out there. But I am in support of having a media person that will be able to tell our story. I've been preaching that from day one, and I'm going to continue to stick to that. But as right now in the game, I would be very hesitant to just support that for the COVID situation. Because like I said earlier, there's nothing new that I see that they will do that we have not yet been doing. And the responsibility is also on our residents to make sure that they get the information that they need. So with that being said, very hesitantly, I will have to think twice about this one. Thank you.
Does anyone have a motion to amend this item to where it will, I guess in section 2, it will say COVID-19 pandemic and other city functions as needed. Those simple words. Do you have a motion for that?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that. I'll second that for discussion if I can.
Oh yeah, the floor is open for discussion. You have the floor, Commissioner Burke.
I'm inclined, like I said, I've looked over the company. It's no disrespect to the owner of the company or whatever, but if it was gonna go beyond the COVID-19, I would have great support for this. But just like everybody's saying right now, we're almost at the end. And like you say, if we can amend it and put something else in there as well, then maybe we can get past this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to amend this section 2 so that the city manager is hereby directed to enter emergency agreement with Hip Rock Star to provide temporary public relations and marketing service to the city of Opa-Locka due to COVID-19 pandemic and other city needs, as well, more specifically as set forth in Exhibit A.
Discussion.
With that discussion, I want to add in on this discussion item. As the mayor and the city of Opa-Locka, I found that, and also through the city manager, that we do not have the public relations expertise within the city of Opa-Locka. Right now, our communications is pretty scattered. We don't have a centralized email listserv that sends out messages that tags people based upon their interests, from jobs to ordinances to city news to COVID-19. And much of our platforms are scattered, and there's no one centralized person that is making sure that this $46 million enterprise is able to communicate to the residents the needs of this government. And earlier in this year, we all, as a commission, we approved a PR RFP. At the moment, the state referred that to the Financial Oversight Board and delayed the actual execution of that PR. When COVID-19 hit, and one of the things that we've heard quite a bit is about messaging. On a call with the mayors and the county, and I let people know that the city of Opa-Locka is facing one of the highest rates of infection of any municipality in the state of Florida. And the only thing that they were able to advise is that we need to get the messaging out. We need to get the messaging out. So with those concerns, I relayed that to the city manager and relayed that to the state. And due to the pandemic and this emergency nature, the state supported that to make sure that we as a city are able to communicate to our residents. So like Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, and Vice Mayor Davis, I do agree that this should be amended to do more because we need that level of support and that expertise. Thankfully, due to my Morehouse training in school, I was able to do some type of talk to the media. But the problem that we have is that there's no one guiding us as spokespeople for the city of Opa-Locka, making sure that our message is being put out to all the proper media channels through radio, news, and all those things. Much of what we've been gathering is really just pulling upon the resources of staff and people to make this work. So I think it's very important that we do have a centralized person. This was already approved within our budget. Actually, we approved $30,000 in our budget, and our budget actually concludes within less than 4 months. So we did a budget amendment that was $30,000 for the year, and now we're only expending up to $15,000 over the next few months to ensure this. So I do hope that this is something that is put into next year's budget, and we actually go through a full RFP process to get the best person for the city of Opa-Locka. But I think this is what we need at the time. And I hear a few of my colleagues talking about us being at the end. We are nowhere near the end of this crisis. Nowhere near the end of this crisis. And that's been reported from the various highest offices. I was listening to the Senate interview with Dr. Fossey and a few others, and they talk about that this crisis can become even worse during the winter of this year. So right now, as the county, Miami-Dade County is opening up the county, irrespective of the guidance from the White House and the federal level, which put in a phased program and put certain guidelines. The county, which is the epicenter of COVID-19 in the state of Florida, is moving forward with opening up businesses. And we literally just got the guidelines today on what that looks like. So over the course of these next few days, I know that we as a commission have a workshop tomorrow, which we will discuss in detail about these natures. And we do have a testing center that literally is just about to open up. So there's a lot we need to do within this small amount of time. And I think that this is very important that we pull upon the best experts that can consolidate our media channels, make sure we have one voice and can target our residents in various ways. So I want to give kudos to the manager for seeing that, analyzing and selecting Hip Rock Star, who was very, as you've seen in her presentation, resume, very well known in the community and very well respected and can do the job. So I just want to give much respect. Yeah, that concludes my remarks. So any other discussion on the amendment to expand this?
Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you. That was a nice presentation, and you're correct, it's not going away, but the issue still that I'm relating, we're spending money, and although it's budgeted and although the state has approved it, et cetera, being taxpayer dollars, I'm still not hearing, and this amendment says "and other," but "and other" does not tell me what "and other" covers, and doesn't tell me how much "and other" is going to cost. And I don't want to leave that because, you just put "and," what does "and other" mean? Now, I heard my colleagues mention they'd like to see it go beyond the scope of what is there. And you said the word "and other." What does "and other" mean? And since the manager said earlier, it goes up to 15,000, but not to exceed it, which means it's, I guess, negotiable. I don't have that in front of me to be able to make that decision at this point. So can someone tell me what "and other" would specifically look like that we're going to be asking you, the actionist firm, to do, and what that amount or cost would potentially look like? Because the way I'm reading what is on the agenda, what we'll be getting for the up to $15,000. So what would that "and other" look like, and it relates to the cost of that or the amount that's projected?
Okay.
That's on the amendment.
Okay. And I say as other city needs, as we know, public relations is a very fundamental factor of most governments and even most organizations and institutions. And they don't really box it in because public relations expands upon almost everything that has to do with communicating our message to the residents, to business owners, and to the media. But I believe the intent, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Bass will jump in, Commissioner Burke, that we don't want this to just solely be focused exclusively on COVID-19 items. So for example, we're looking at this, what's on the share on the screen today. We see 3 bullet points that specifically focus on COVID-19. What I'm thinking that we're saying is that COVID-19 and other items as deemed necessary by our manager or by the commission. We know that in her presentation, Ms. Mockins stated that she will be sitting with each and every one of us to get very clear ideas and goals about what needs to be set, what are the priorities. And I guess that and other city needs will cover those individual goals, city manager and things. But the key component, as you brought up, Commissioner Kelly, is that this is going to be a cap at $15,000. So we know as a commission, the main and the city manager and I'm getting some feedback from someone. I'm gonna mute everybody just in case, okay? As we know, it would be capped at 15,000, no matter what. So, but we also know that our main priority for passing this as an emergency nature is due to COVID-19 messaging that we must do over the next few weeks. And I think one of the major things about this is that the PR person has to do a lot of front end work with developing the infrastructure of our messaging, which is getting our thoughts, getting the manager's thoughts, and then putting together those infrastructure. Like we don't even have a email service like Constant Contact or MailChimp, which is basic. Like that's something we don't even have in the city. So I'm pretty sure that's what that will cover. And Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Bass, or Commissioner Burke, if I missed anything or didn't capture it, please feel free to jump in. All right.
Mayor Paget?
Yes, Commissioner Bass.
My thoughts are at this moment is that we are totally focused on COVID-19, which we should be. There isn't much other than that that's happening in the city that they will be able to report on or to tell our story on. So even though me personally, I would like for it to be a larger scope of the everyday activities of Opa-Locka, I don't see it happening as a part of it because there's nothing happening until this is over. That's what I like to make. Thank you.
Okay. All right, floor is open for the amendment. Any other discussion on the amendment? All right.
Sorry, through the mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Commissioner, I don't know who went first.
Commissioner Kelly can go and I can wait.
Commissioner Kelly.
Well, I was muted, so I couldn't speak. So I was asked to speak for Commissioner Bass, but I was muted. I don't know why I came on my screen and said I was muted. Am I unmuted now?
We can hear you loud and clear. Remember,
okay,
I'm muted everybody.
I'm not a fan of this mute stuff, especially when I have the floor. But anyway, again, you made a good presentation, Mr. Mayor, but this is the manager's item, so I'm going to assume everything you said he agrees with. And I'm looking at this Exhibit A, and I still have challenges. So that has not changed my opinion. So we can just go ahead and vote however you want to vote. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Okay. I will say this. The city does not have the fundamental marketing plans to deal with anything that may go on within the city. So we don't even have the fundamental basis on this. And I'm speaking for myself as a city manager being here for 6 months. There are 3 bullet points that specifically talk about COVID-19. There are other bullet points that are not specific to COVID-19. If the commission deems it fit that they want this to be expanded more than COVID-19, adding that section would expand the other bullet points, other than ones that are specific for COVID-19. This is something I think I've heard from a majority of the commission. You know, no single one person putting out information. You all want the voice of the commission heard. Right now, what's going on is individual messaging coming from various different places. I wanted to put something in place, number one, to gain commission support, to have somebody come in, talk to each commissioner, to understand what goals that you all want. Like, so everybody's voice is heard in this process. So it's not a singular person that something's coming from. I mean, at the end of the day, if we RFP this, we're going to come back to the same point. The commission is going to end up agreeing to a long-term solution. I'm asking for this short-term 90-day solution not to exceed $15,000 and still meet the needs to address everybody's concerns of not just COVID-19, but dealing with other issues as far as marketing and media, okay? And yes, we are in a COVID-19 world, but the city still has to operate. There's still planning and messaging that we still need to put out in regards to other things related that are unrelated to COVID-19, because the city still has to move forward and operate in this new normal. And so somebody has to assist us in showing us or getting everybody's point of view of what this new normal is going to look like. So we have our own voice for our own selves. And so I'm asking for support for this item, making it known that we're going to expand it out for other things other than COVID-19 and still not to exceed $15,000. You guys have put a stringent, if you all pass this tonight, you all put a stringent cap on the amount of money that can be spent for this item. This is not a blank check. And this item has to be RFP'd out. The state is only going to approve a 90-day engagement. They require for this matter to be RFP'd out moving forward. So this is not a 90-day extension, a 90-day extension, a 90-day extension. This is something that helped me get started for planning for the city. And this is what I'm asking for support of the commission for this. You all have made it known you guys want it to be expanded. Let's expand it. Let's do it now. Why not? Why wait later? Do it now. Let's expand it. Not to exceed $15,000, and let's expand what media and marketing, other marketing things that you guys want. Like as Ms. Motkin said, she's going to meet with each individual of you all and come up with a marketing plan based on what everybody has input that everybody's put in, not just one person.
Thank you, Ms. Manager. Any other discussion on the amendment before we go to the actual resolution?
Well, Mr. Mayor, somebody can answer the question. The manager just put it on the floor. He's asking what else will go in there. Hello?
We hear you loud and clear. Is that
okay? Well, he's put on the floor. I want to know what else will go in there other than COVID-19, because that's the other part. That's the amendment that you're voting on. What would go in there that would be addressed, that would make this, you know, more, in my opinion, feasible and doable. I got the up to 15,000 part, but what else would go in there? I heard some things from my colleagues, but I want to see it. I would prefer to see it laid out. I don't like the word "and other." That's too general of a statement. So since you all are, you know, my colleagues have put that out there as potential for the amendment, I want to know, or would like to know, as the manager is saying, what would that be so it can be incorporated? Who knows? Maybe the applicant may not feel she could even do that for what this agreement says. But this is agreement. I know I heard Vice Mayor Davis mention about the water bill. I don't know what the cost would be to do that, because that's something we used to do. I don't know if it's doable, but that's one way people do get that bill, and they will see whatever. If that's doable as a part of that messaging, put it in there so that can be known. I want to hear what the other is to my colleagues, because as it stands now, I hear the manager and I appreciate that, but what is the other? Put it in there now.
Mr.
Any
Mayor,
discussion on the amendment, Commissioner Burke?
Mr. Mayor, what I would like is if, and at others, we can, touch on, even though she's gonna do the COVID-19, but we have a couple of hot spots in the city that we really need to get the word out to. The 22nd Avenue apartments, the Garden apartments, and down in the Triangle. Like I say, I've been in these areas, and surely, if they can get into these places and get the word out, and get us some kind of results, because like I say, they still down in the Triangle, holding parties under the bushes. And we don't have anybody in the city. We have our law enforcement officers drive by and they go on by. So you're right, we're not having anybody getting the word out about the seriousness of this COVID-19. So if we can target, along with this, a couple of our hotspots, which I just mentioned, then maybe this would be doable.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke. I know that's going to probably be part of these sessions once, if this is approved, that we'll be able to, consultant will be able to meet with each of us to clearly lay out those items and goals. So any other discussion on the amendment so we can get to the actual resolution? All right, with that, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass? I can't hear you, Commissioner Bass.
Being very hesitant, yes.
Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
No.
Mayor Pygott?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1 on the amendment.
Right, any other discussion on the main motion, main item? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pygott?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Mockins, we look forward to having you as part of the city of Opa-Locka and helping us with that messaging. Thank you very much. All right. Mute everybody again.
Okay, Big Ben.
All right, I'm gonna mute everybody again. Just make sure you can unmute yourself. I want to make that. I hear some background feedback. All right. All right, Madam Attorney, I believe we're on 14.1, the add-on item.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, amending Chapter 8, Article 1 to create new Section 8.6 entitled Face Mask or Face Coverings during Pandemic-Related Public Health Emergency.
Madam Attorney, it's the item on the screen for the Brown Law Group, the new add-on item.
I do apologize. Let me go back. I'm going in between screens. I do apologize.
No problem.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, approving a settlement agreement in the matter of the Brown Law Group, LLC versus City of Opa-Locka, attached hereto is Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to take necessary action, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Burke. Mr. Manager, your thoughts? We can't hear you, Mr. Manager. Unmute your mic.
Unmuted, sorry. As we discussed earlier, this is a matter being brought before the City Commission in regards to settle a matter with the Brown Law Group in the city of Opa-Locka. The city has done the appropriate research, and the monies that are as depicted in the resolution settlement agreement are monies that are owed to the Brown Law Group. These monies need to be paid out post haste in order to ensure that we can kind of resolve this litigation in the most expedient terms possible.
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, discuss, Commissioner Burke.
to the city attorney, Ms. Weeks, once we vote this and we settle this, this is all severance with Mr. Brown, is it not?
This includes everything. Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Can't come back later and say, claim nothing else.
No, the only caveat to that is if the city pays late in any of these payments, then he can come and get attorney's fees for prosecuting the late payment. But other than that, if the city is on time, this is everything.
Thank you, Ms. Weeks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion on this item? All right. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Unmute your mic, Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. The ordinance.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, amending Chapter 8, Article 1 to create new Section 8.6 entitled Face Masks or Face Coverings during pandemic-related public health emergency that threatens life, health, and safety of residents, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by Mayor Pygott, Vice Mayor Davis, and Commissioner Bass.
All right, got a motion on this item?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Commissioner Bass. Floor is open for discussion. I guess I'll start off with discussion as one of the main sponsors of this item. A few weeks ago, at the start of this COVID-19, we began to see the city of Opa-Locka within the top 5 cities based upon the per capita rate of infections and the health department's reports of having a very high level of infection within the city of Opa-Locka. And based upon CDC guidelines, infections come from human to human contact. People who have the disease, whether or not they know it or not, who when speaking, coughing or sneezing, can transmit the virus to others. So the guidance have been made, the only way to slow this virus is to stay away from others so that you can't get anybody's breath or droplets on you, or cover masks when around, cover your mouth and nose when around others so that those droplets cannot come out. We know that this is a very serious matter, and it affects our population of people who have a poverty, African-American, Latino, people of color. And it is on us as a commission to do what we can to protect our residents. The main guidance that's been going on is that usually masks are and currently right now, masks are required if you enter a business within Miami-Dade County. This goes a little further. This makes sure that in any public place that people are congregating, that people are wearing masks. There are exceptions for if people are going for a walk, exercising, and a few others. This legislation, we discussed this last week at our regular weekly workshops on COVID-19. And my colleagues and quite a few of us, actually majority of us, put together some thoughts and ideas and considerations of how this would be enforced, what were the exceptions, and we all came together to try and craft something that actually would work for our community. There's been a lot of talk, and I've actually seen a lot of people within Opa-Locka wearing masks, but this gives our staff and enforcement, code enforcement, and the police the right to tell someone to cover their face. And I think that is very important, because even if people cover their face, it's those few people that do not that can still infect others. And based upon the nature of how this virus has been going, like the information changes day to day. Recently, I've heard that it can be transmitted even through the eyes. So if somebody's speaking and it can go into the eye, it's crazy, man. It really is. So we believe at the moment that this will be help to start to slow the spread and also get our people back to work. This is having a severe impact on people working, bringing in income. And we need to do what we need to do as a commission so that our community can get back to work and can be somewhat normalized. So that's why I'm in full support of this. And the great thing about this is that we have opportunities to edit it. This is a law. And the reason why it's an ordinance instead of a resolution is that it has an enforcement measure within it. And with that, we have time to make this fit for us. So I would love to use this time today at our workshop, tomorrow, workshop the next week, and when it comes back on second reading, to fine tune this into something that works for us and our city and fulfills our responsibilities of leaders of this city to ensure that our people and our community are as safe as possible, and we don't have an undue amount of deaths due to governmental inaction. So that's why I'm in full support of this, and I appreciate my colleagues for helping to fine tune this. So let's figure out how we're gonna fine tune this, y'all. That's my thoughts. Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner, since you're second sponsor, you have any thoughts? And then Commissioner Bass, and open up the floor for everyone else. Any thoughts? No? Commissioner Bass?
Yes, sir. In regards to the $250 that we spoke about at our last meeting, during our meeting, I think tomorrow, would that be the appropriate time to discuss that, or now, or?
We can do it now.
Okay. A few residents spoke to me in regards to the 250, and I listened carefully to what they had to say as residents who also care for their community. And the suggestion that was made was, the belief was that the 250, if we continue with that, we're more likely not to get anyone to adhere to that, versus if it was lower, we might have more people to, if they have that infraction, to make good on it. And I thought about that. I said, if we, continue with the 250, we're gonna have people who are going to warrant that 250 who will not pay it regardless. But if there's the lower amount, most likely that will be taken care of. So I think we might want to revisit the 250 and, kind of think about another number. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I'm actually in support of that. We can debate a number. Commissioner, I think, and Commissioner Burke, I think, suggested a number at our workshop. But go ahead, Commissioner Burke.
Like I said earlier, Mr. Mayor, I know we are here for the safety of our residents as well as taking care of our residents. We're not here to hurt our residents, okay? And with that 250, I think if you remember at the workshop, even the police chief said, I think that was the fine for the saggy pants, $250. And even the police chief said he don't remember nobody enforcing it. And I'm saying, you know, I know our main guideline is to protect our citizens and look out for our citizens' health and well-being and their safety. But as I said before, I think a fine of $250 is a bit more. And like I said, I know we need some legislation, because I ride around the city. I see there's still a lot of people that's not using masks. I see just the other day I was in Family Dollar. The manager had a problem with somebody he didn't want to let in with a mask. So I realized that if there is legislation, some people are going to heed to it. But I'm just saying, the enforcement of the legislation, we have to be very delicate with that, because we're here to help our people. We don't want to hurt our people. Thank you.
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. I was not at the workshop, so I'm kind of hearing a lot of this for the first time and reading the legislation. I definitely would not support $250. I understand the intent of wanting to put something in place, but I could support $100 or something. And then if people are not complying, they have to go up. But I think $250 is way too high. So that's the first thing I would want to amend it to $100, $150, because I'm thinking of the administrative cost, because you're doing this through special masters. So I know there's a cost that goes with that. So I could be more amenable for that. That's number one. I'll put that on the table as an amendment. The second thing is, with regard, is there a reason in the discussion that y'all had why you made it a ordinance of this magnitude, so it's here permanently as opposed to a part of the orders? And that's to, I guess, the sponsor or whomever. Yeah. I understand what we're doing, but because it's changing so much and what have you, why are we making an ordinance, which means if we decide to change, we got to go through a little more lengthier process. And I do recognize the enforcement piece. So I'm assuming, is that the main reason? Exactly. That it was done ordinance wise as opposed to reso?
You're correct.
Okay. Well, in that case, then number one, like I said, 100, 150. The second thing is going through the special masters, and that's the process we'll be using. I'm concerned of how it will get enforced. I understand the intent. I'm all for the intent, but how it gets enforced, because when I looked at other places and there's not that many that really did this, that was the kind of challenging part, because to me it becomes subjective in terms of whomever we're using, whether it's the police or code. I'm assuming you're possibly using both of them. Is that a correct statement? Again, I wasn't at the workshop, so you'll be using police and or code, or just police exclusively?
Both.
Both. Okay, so that means it's going to come down to in my opinion, a subjective matter, whether you got the mask, whether you don't have, the mask, and the reason behind, because you do have some caveats in here dealing with health related and health risk as opposed to why they may not be wearing it. Will they require some kind of documentation to show why they're not wearing it because of health reasons, or are we just going to take their word for it? And I'm saying that because even with the mask, I see a lack of enforcement, as my colleague mentioned, and people are supposed to be wearing masks. So we're going to do this. I just want to see an exercise, and we have one officer, code officer, or two police officers who are really enforcing, and everybody else is kind of like nonchalant. And that's why I'm bringing that up. So that needs to me be the main focus. If we're going to do this, that it is going to get enforced, because that to me is the challenge for all of this. Why we're even doing this, because people are not taking it seriously, as you said, in terms of enforcement. The other question I have, is there anything Mr. Mayor, maybe this to the attorney, unless one of the sponsors know, within the apartment complexes, if they, and I know, do not adhere to this, is there a mechanism or something in here that directly goes to those complexes to ensure that they do what they can to make sure the folks are wearing a mask when outdoors or out of the house, out of the apartment? Because that's a big challenge even now with folks around not having masks. So is that part anywhere in this legislation addressed, or is it just addressed in the general sense of being outside?
Through the mayor.
Madam Attorney?
There's nothing specifically addressing apartment complexes, Commissioner Kelly.
Okay, so just it would go, Mr. Mayor, then to the, so it just goes to the officer goes in there for whatever reason, or code goes in there, you have a mask, the enforcement or whatever just kicks in automatically. Yes, no, I don't, Madam, somebody?
I'll defer that to the manager.
Okay, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, to the manager.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, Commissioner, we really have to kind of look at and define the process, and I think there should be a component just to kind of piggyback on kind of something you said before I lose train of thought. I do think it should be a component in this legislation to address multifamily housing complexes as far as the enforcement of certain these orders, just similar as what we did with mandating the security officers for the complexes that have issues with enforcement of certain violent crimes. Because the biggest offenders of the mask issues that we're running into is these large apartment complexes. And I do believe there should be additional components added into this to kind of address this, which is why I'm happy this is in ordinance form and we're going to be able to discuss it in multiple workshops to kind of address it, because we got to kind of hit the reason of why people are not doing it. And then what was the other part of your question, Commissioner?
Well, you kind of addressed it in that part of it. So I mean, okay, you answered, that's enough, but I don't prolong the time. Well, Mr. Mayor, in my conclusion to this, I support the ordinance, but the 2 points that I would like to see, I guess you go forth in the workshop before it gets to the final reading, is a decrease in that 250 to 100, 150, and also adding a component with multi-units, because that's a major challenge we've had creating. Since we know it, we might as well put it in the legislation if we can to some point. And I also would like to see, I guess since it's discussion, that we would go back and revisit this ordinance, every 6 months or something, since this is changing, so to make sure that we do stay on top of it in case there are any other changes that come down the pipe, since this is an ordinance. Thank you. Those 2 things I'd like to put out there, whether it's for now or you want to do them in the workshop, but if you're not going to amend it now, then we can look at it in the workshop. But I want to offer those 2 things as amendments.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Yeah, I just want to echo Commissioner Kelly's concerns. I think that's a great approach to kind of deal with issues in our multifamily complexes, holding the apartment complex, the owners accountable. As we know, we passed legislation in the past to pretty much add additional layers of oversight for those departments to improve public safety and other concerns. So yeah, I agree with this approach. And I hope the manager or some way it could be incorporated. I don't know if we have to amend it or, we could workshop it like you guys said, and we just bring it up at a later meeting. But I'm in support. Thank you.
Well, hearing the concerns, I agree with the concerns. We have had quite a few enforcement problems with curfew at some of the larger complexes. So I think that is something we do need to address. How we do so, think we probably need to think that through and have the chief of police, the manager, and a few others basically help us think that through at a workshop. So we do have a workshop tomorrow. So Commissioner Kelly, if I would defer that part to the workshop. However, I think that we can move forward. It looks like we have the support right now to amend this item to reduce from $250 to $100. If you want to make that amendment, let's do so. And then also the consideration of whether or not it's going to be raised, because there's usually it's a first $100, a second maybe $150, the next maybe $200, and then it just stays at $200 each time. Like, I don't know, but let's make that amendment. What your amendment is?
Yes,
go ahead.
yes, Mr. Mayor, I want to amend it to the 100, and that's why I said to revisit, because during the workshop we can discuss how we want to do the layers, but I also want to make sure that the manager recoups our costs for whatever that special master is incorporated in there. So that's why I said 100 or 150, because I'm not sure what the cost is, just like they do with other special master. And I don't want us to go in the hole trying to enforce this. We want to make sure that we recoup whatever our cost is. So I would defer that to the manager, but I would like to amend it to, let's say 150, because I know there is a cost, unless he prefers, unless he can tell us right now. I'd like to make that amendment to 150, and then I would defer to, like you said, the chief or whomever getting together on that second part of it and offer some suggestions that we could further put into the final legislation. But I would amend it to the 100. I want to say 100 and have the layers to go up. That's really what I would say. 100, second offense, third offense, because I know you all talked about it. So
Yeah.
I'm supportive of raising it up, but to start at 100.
All right. So
That's my amendment.
let me make it clear. I'm gonna restate it and tell me if I'm correct. I may add a little bit to it. So right now we're going to amend, hold up. Was it section 3.5 to where the civil fine is tiered to where it starts at 100, second offense 150, third offense 250, and it continues if at 250 each time after that. Is that?
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, Madam Attorney.
Okay, right now, currently, I just want to point out, it says up to 250. So, the magistrate could make it less than, or somebody could make it less than that. So I'm wondering, with what you're saying, you're not intending for it to go beyond 250, right? So your cap would be, if you did it in a staggered way with a progressive fine based on the offense, I'm assuming you won't intend for it to go beyond a certain point. Is that correct?
Yes, but I think the intent of the commission so far is that they want to start off with 100. That's the intent. Start off with 100, not let it be decided by someone, but start off with 100. Second offense, 150, and I guess the third offense can be determined by the special magistrate up to 250.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, I want this commission to set that amount. I don't want it to be left up to a magistrate, especially to start off. So that's why I said 100 to start, and then you can work your way up to get to your max, 250. But I want the commission to set whatever that beginning part. So I'm saying 100 to start, and then you can use your increments that you just said, 150 or up to 250. But yeah, I want the commission to start that off with the 100. Now that's my amendment.
Okay. The amendment is on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Burke. Any discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion on the amendment passes 5-0.
All right. Do I have any other discussion on the main item? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0, first reading.
Mr.
All right.
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
I don't know how you're setting the agenda for tomorrow. So you did mention we're going to mention, so you're going to make sure that it's on the discussion item, whatever. And I heard you mention about having the police, the manager, and all the other folks. So I'm assuming they're going to be in place to discuss that tomorrow.
Yes, during our workshop is for COVID-19 related issues. So this is one of those COVID-19 related issues that we will bring up. And I believe the manager, budget, Chief Dotson has heard us loud and clear about what we want to see as we discuss the financial aspect of it, as brought up, and also the apartment complex. So I know that may be a development discussion. I don't know, but I'm sure the manager will bring in appropriate personnel to give us good thoughts on how we need to move this forward, along with public input and our own research.
I just wanted to make sure, because we can make sure it's incorporated in the final draft, consensus and ordinance. That's the only reason I mentioned it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Manager, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During my report, I want to kind of touch base on what we've done so far in dealing with the coronavirus pandemic currently, some of the goals and priorities that individual commissioners and the commission in general has set forth, kind of give an update on those things. And then I want to kind of touch on some infrastructure related issues, as well as created and go over some other financial related issues in regards to some matters regarding the 4 major challenges. So the biggest thing with the coronavirus and the pandemic that I think the city really wanted to kind of pinpoint on, and this is just based on input from the commission and in my department staff meetings, is providing daily messaging in regards to where we're at as far as virus infection rate, where we're at as far as enforcement, and kind of give a general summary on a daily basis of what has been the key things that have occurred in regards to the coronavirus. I think that messaging has been very efficient and effective. I haven't heard any feedback otherwise. If there's feedback today, I would welcome that feedback. As everybody is seeing that, we are rapidly getting these emergency orders done. I would caution the commission that the county is in the process of reopening non-essential businesses effective Monday. Based on the very preliminary information that I just received, maybe as of 3 hours ago, that was just shared to us by the county, there is some opt-out potential there for cities to opt out of opening non-essential businesses or having more stringent requirements. I would say this is something that we need to discuss in detail tomorrow. I have spoken to the city attorney. I'm going to forward her that guidance. We of course have not had a chance to digest this guidance because literally it just came out maybe an hour and a half prior to the commission meeting. So I haven't even had enough time to digest to see where we're gonna go with that. I would suggest that we not run towards opening up non-essential businesses based on our COVID-19 rate that we currently have now, as well as other compliance issues such as curfew and face mask and various other matters that the commission is currently taking under advisement. I don't think is a good idea to run necessarily in the direction of what Miami-Dade County is kindly doing currently. We do have a centralized webpage and messaging in regards to COVID-19 on the city's website, so we have done that. We are working towards a centralized coordination of city activities in response to COVID-19. Bringing on our PR and marketing person can just kind of assist with that, especially developing online engagement strategy, kind of figuring out some engagement with our residents during this time, maybe more Zoom interactions with our residents. I know a lot of commissioners are still engaging with their constituents, either through Facebook Live, even potentially Zoom in the future. So we want to get into this new normal. So we have the technical resources available through our IT department to do more Zoom meetings. We can develop a Zoom calendar. So if you all want to engage constituents, want to do programming, even Commissioner Bass, I was thinking about Zoom bingo. That's possible. You know, I know it's, you know, you may actually engage a different demographic within the city. I'm hearing some good things in regards to engaging different demographics since we've been in COVID-19. So actually getting more segments of the community interacting with our elected officials and even interacting with staff on a more constant basis. You know, as you all are aware, you know, we are having challenges, have been having challenges with Feeding South Florida. We're kind of trying to address those challenges as far as making sure we have good quality food, making sure we have more variety of food. As you all know, our deliveries are different by the week. We are not getting things on a constant basis. And as even some of our residents share, and even some of our commissioners share, some of the variety is not even, you can't even create a meal from it. You know, it's just a lot of, you know, just different items that really cannot be used for a succinct dietary plan for an individual. So kind of reaching out to Feeding South Florida and kind of addressing those matters. We were successful in finding a vendor to purchase face masks for our residents. So we have 36,000 face masks on order that's slated to be delivered by next Friday to the city. Those masks will be available for staff and residents on an as-needed basis. So as we try to enforce this mask order and we go into this new normal, trying to force these things, we kind of want to provide the resources possible to assist our residents in complying. So, you know, we are looking at those other avenues and looking at those other things. So that's what I have on Corona 19. Are there any specific questions in regards to Corona 19 before I go into the 4 major priorities and before we go into individual reports in regards to our operational audit and various other issues?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Burke.
To the manager. Mr. Manager, you did a great job. You talked about everything but the opening up. The opening of the testing center, Mr. Manager.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure I could answer those kind of questions, kind of jump into those kind of questions. As you all know, the testing center is in work in progress. We've been in meetings with stakeholders from the state. Just to be very clear, this is a state-sponsored site. So this is being funded by the state of Florida. It's going to be an 18 and over site. We tried to get it to be 12 and over, but the state said they'll take that into consideration. And we're looking at a potential opening for our residents on Saturday. But I have not gotten the PR piece that I was supposed to get from the state by 5 o'clock today. So that's why I really wasn't poignant, Commissioner, as far as putting out a lot of information. because I haven't gotten the finite details other than that it will most likely be open on Saturday, and they will be using, in order to be scheduled, the 311 calls. There's a special number to be called, and all that information is going to be put out to our residents through Code Red, through our social media, through our messaging, through the county, and other resources. So do you have any specific questions on testing?
Yes, Mr. Manager, I was wondering, and I would like to hear my colleagues, before we start testing the residents, what about testing the employees?
So I'm waiting to get information. More likely than not, all commissioners, all employees, all first responders, all healthcare professionals will be able to do walk-up testing on Friday. I just have not received the final okay for that. But tomorrow's Thursday, and so we'll be able to put that information out to our employees, and the testing site will be open from 9 a.m., taking the last person at 2 p.m. so they can close by 5.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions on COVID-19?
If I may.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bass.
Wow, it's just kind of went over my head. It's been a long day. It just left me. I'll come back. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Manager, for all your efforts for putting the testing site together and ensuring that we have those resources in our communities. You brought up a good point about the virtual engagement, and it actually came up in the virtual Zoom meeting that I was a part of earlier with the Beacon Council. I think it is a great opportunity to maybe engage some segments of the population that we otherwise haven't been able to, I guess, garner in person in our commission meetings. I guess maybe as we are putting together this marketing strategy and we're thinking, forwardly of what the new normal is going to look like, maybe putting together some sort of consistent form, like a virtual town hall. I know we all have our own kind of individual ways of interfacing and getting that information out to the community. I know Commissioner Kelly, he does the Meet Me Monday, and Commissioner Pygott does Pygott on the Block. And I've seen other cities, such as the city of Miami Gardens, and their commissioners actually do virtual Meet Me Mondays. So just kind of throwing it out there, seeing what other cities are doing, and then also realizing the opportunity that currently presents to, engage with our residents in, potentially, new virtual manner. So just throwing it out there as an idea, and thank you again, Mr. Manager, for continuing the great work.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And I tell you, these efforts, these are legislative efforts, efforts by each one of you all as our legislators in getting these resources for our city. All I do is enact plans that are put in place. Our elected body is the ones that are responsible for getting the resources we need to move our city forward. So thank you for that.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I can't hear you.
Mr. Kelly, I muted everybody again because I heard feedback. Go ahead, you got the floor, Commissioner Kelly.
Oh, okay, thank you. Mr. Manager, on COVID-19, and the Vice Mayor is correct, it does give you a new segment. I'm still doing Meet Me Monday virtually, and I have picked up residents from segments of our community who normally would not attend, so it does work. I really hope Commissioner Bass does do the bingo by virtual. You mentioned about the testing, so I won't go into that, but as it relates to COVID-19, where we are now, and I very concerned with what was going on this past weekend all over our city. I am very frustrated, I don't know what word I want to use, to be getting calls from residents who are very concerned about things going on all over our city as though we're opened up like there's nothing going on, and their frustration that we're not enforcing what's already on the books, as you say, you know, the social distancing, the gatherings, the whole 9 yards. It was just really unacceptable. I reached out to you. I know my colleagues probably did too, because we probably all get the same calls from all segments of our community. What was going on that made it so challenging? And again, the word get out, the wrong media. And I don't never like to see us on social media in a negative light, and we're just trying to do our job. I saw videos on Facebook, and our officers were just trying to calm the crowd down in some of our apartment complexes, and yet they were getting berated on social media about really trying to do their job. It goes back to the point I made earlier a few weeks ago about making sure these apartment complexes, these multi-units, especially ones we know, address these concerns. We cannot police, you know, every corner. And these folks get money. I've said it so many times, and I'm frustrated with hearing, you know, we're gonna have meetings and we're gonna talk to this one. The talking is out. And we have major challenges in these complexes that are happening all the time. Now it's spreading into other areas of the community, and I've told you about it, so I don't have to go into it, including houses and streets being blocked off and people just totally ignoring it. Why is that occurring? I'm really frustrated as why it's occurring. And number two, going back to the apartment complex themselves, not just with COVID-19, but just security in general. When I ride around, I've been to some of them, you know, I see maybe one person playing security or with a security uniform or whatever, but nothing like I'm being told, you know, that they've got security and they're manning their properties. No, we're seeing that to always go over. And this past weekend was no exception. What are we doing about that? Because we could do all the testing, we could do all the PR, we could do all, but if folks are not taking this seriously because of enforcement, even with the mask that we're proposing, nothing is going to change. Something has to give. And I'm starting with the apartment complexes because they get funding, provide security for those complexes. Have we really engaged those owners, not apartment managers? I know the vice mayor has been working on this with the housing, but it just seems like they're taking our efforts for granted, you know, and we're having to go over and police them. And we don't have the man. If they want policing, then they ought to be paying for it with off-duty officers or whatever like they used to. But they can't just call us every time. We got to run over and you got 7,500 people gathered together, you know, it just out of control. So what is the plan for that? Because that's something you as the manager have to I just want to know what the plan is. I got frustrated from residents calling me and texting me all time of the night over the weekend about this and where is the police and do they know and whatever. And I don't have an answer. I just tell them I know they're out there. I know there are resources out there, but something is just not cohesive, you know, and I just want to make sure going forward that we don't have a repeat, because it seems like every segment of our community last weekend, had used this term, was wide open. So if you could address that, this is strictly on.
Sure, Commissioner. So I actually, the reason I didn't bring it up tonight is I actually had a subject of discussion for tomorrow night, but I can kind of go over.
I can wait till tomorrow night. If you want to wait and do it as a part of that, I can wait.
Yeah, because I have Chief Dobson's going to do a formal presentation tomorrow night on what led to everything that occurred, what the police department did to break up those assemblies, and what we're doing moving forward to kind of address those. So he has a full report that he's going to provide to the commission as I requested him to do this weekend. So Mr. Provide to the commission.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, then I will hold up and wait on the thing. I will just say, Mr. Manager, regarding COVID-19, I want to hear more than we're going to meet with property owners and we've got meetings scheduled. I heard that for enough time. I want to really hear what is the plan going forward to address them, even if they're not going to do what they need to do. So I'll wait on that in terms of COVID-19. I'll wait on that workshop tomorrow. That's all I have on COVID-19. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does anyone else have anything on COVID-19?
We'll take up the rest at the workshop tomorrow.
Okay, so let's talk about operational audit. My budget administrator has a report that he will, a verbal report they will present to the commission in regards to the status of the operational audit. Mr. Budget Director.
Yeah, good evening. I apologize for my silence before. It's the first time I've done this on the phone, and I haven't figured out where all the buttons are. So that's why I was silent half an hour ago. In terms of the operational audit, we're obviously not where we'd like to be. We've got 30, we reported 30 through the end of April. The reality of it is what's partly my fault, because I've been very stringent on what I found to be acceptable. For each one of the 99 items, I've used 3 criteria. First, does it address the recommendations that each finding has? Each finding has 2, 3, 4 recommendations, and we'd be accused of not listening if we didn't directly address that. Second thing that I have been insisting being there, which is logical, is it really a coherent procedure? Does it make sense? And the third one that I've really insisted on being there, can we demonstrate compliance? Because you can have the most beautiful procedures and policies, but if you can't demonstrate you're doing them, then it's essentially just words on paper. So there have been 2. One primary issue is finance very heavily involved in the finance, and finance, for obvious reasons, has been totally out of touch. We schedule all of the finance they're involved in at the tail end of the period over the next 3 months. With the audit for FY18 coming to a closure tomorrow night, hopefully, they're going to be much more active. So we should start to really make some progress at that point. HR has also had their hands full. So COVID-19, they've had to deal with simultaneously, and they have a fair number. So we're moving forward on it, not with the speed I'd like, but I think from here on out, we're going to start to see some real movement on it. As I said, we reported 30 as of the end of April, and I expect to see much better progress going forward from here.
Okay, so that's touching on the operational audit. Mr. Austin, if you can discuss water, sewer, infrastructure, and roads, please.
Okay, starting with our wastewater infrastructure, I'm proud of the progress we're making. As of yesterday, we completed pump station number 5, which is one of 4 stations that are still in the consent agreement that we need to deal with. 2 additional stations are coming forward this month for commission approval, so we could get those stations completed. And next month, we intend to bring the last station, number 4, to the commission, which would put us ahead in November of this year to be 90% compliant with the DERM consent agreement as it relates to all of our pump stations being compliant, which also answers the question for much needed commerce that was dependent on pump station number 4. In our water infrastructure, we are identifying and repairing leaks as the days go by. We took a small step back during COVID-19 shutdown, but we've picked back up where we left off, and we're identifying and resolving leaks in the field. We're looking forward to getting a consultant on board so we could deal with our flooding conditions around the city. However, we are going to be bringing 2 items forward to address 2 specific flooding needs around the city. Otherwise, we just business as usual for public works. That's it, Mr. Manager.
Let's talk about the road resurfacing projects that we've concluded and which ones we have coming moving forward. I mean, I would like to commend the CIP's management of these projects during COVID-19 conditions. And this is an example of the new normal that I expressed earlier to the commission, how no matter, regardless of COVID-19, the city still has to move forward with its infrastructure improvements, with its road improvements, and various other activities. So can you touch on that? I know you don't want to toot your own horn, but I'm going to toot it for you tonight. If you can kind of touch on that a little bit.
we have identified the two worst roadways in the city, 141 and 139. And we are going to be doing some more there to garner the trust of the business owners in that area by beautifying the streets in addition to resurfacing. At next meeting agenda, we are bringing forward a large portion of infrastructure for our roads. It's going to address the majority of our streets in the city with resurfacing. And we're going to touch on the last time we did resurfacing, where we did not address the corners of the streets that were not completed, and we saw some damage taking place there. We're going to address that as well. We're addressing streets on a temporary basis in this initiative as well. On the south side of the city, where we have a lot of illegal dumping, we're resurfacing streets in that area to promote more visibility and deter seclusion where people feel comfortable dumping. So we are making a lot of strides, and to the point where I said the last time, potholes are becoming scarce, and it's a good thing. But until we address our flooding concern, we're going to still be dealing with potholes, but not on the magnitude that we have in the past. So hopefully we'll see the next results of our efforts coming to fruition in reduce costs for risk management and claims in the city. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. I'll have Ms. Lazier address the finances of the city, the finance department. Ms. Lazier, and if you kind of touch on the audit a little bit. I know we're gonna approve this audit tomorrow. We're gonna hit the finish line to get this audit done and submit it to the state. So if you want to kind of touch on that and what we're doing, what our finances kind of moving forward, and kind of touch and discuss our water billing piece.
So we can get a finance department.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is Jerry Lazar. I just wanted to share a little bit about the audit. I'm really proud of the team. We've made substantial progress. We did get a report from Mr. Brunson earlier today. We've been proofing it to submit it to Mr. Brunson to have it issued tomorrow for approval. With respect to the utility billing, we provided the manager with a report on active accounts. So I'll give some details on that. There are a total of 5,027 active accounts. 1,858 of those accounts had zero balances. 346 of those accounts had credit balances of about $56,137, which we have utility clerks reviewing along with the utility manager to determine whether or not those credits are reasonable and are due back to customers. We have 572 balances that are less than $100, and it's about $26,874 in value. The biggest area definitely are the accounts that are greater than $100. If we have about 2,251 accounts that are actually greater than $100, and that total outstanding is about $7 million. I will say that the utility department has been working on trying to collect some of these outstanding balances. They've been able to create about 90 payment plans, which amounts to about $90,000. And these customers have been paying actively on their accounts. We have a little bit of a hiccup because of the shutdown of City Hall for a little bit and not necessarily allowing customers to be able to come inside. So that has been a little bit of a hiccup, but we're still moving forward. In addition, out of that 5,027 accounts, about 37 of them represent the accounts that had not transitioned over to Miami-Dade County, of which 22 are Cairo Lane. And obviously the Cairo Lane accounts will not be transitioned until road construction is complete. So that's the report for utility accounts. And Definitely excited about the audit, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward into other modes in terms of the operational audit. We do have somebody that's tackling some of the findings, as Mr. Anathan alluded to earlier. The Finance Department has really been heavily focused on the audit and the CITT audit, which was recently completed. But once this audit is released, we'll definitely be able to focus more on the operational audit and then making sure that our team is adhering to some accountability measures. So we've incorporated a monthly operational plan where staff is going to be assigned different tasks and responsibilities to make sure that they're achieving on a monthly basis. That'll be reviewed and monitored just to make sure that we're complying with our own internal control policies. So that's an update from the Finance Department, unless you have any other questions.
Are there any questions in regards to water, sewer, roads, infrastructure, finance, operational audit related issues? Anything that any commissioners want to cover with me specifically in the manager's report, or any questions that need to be answered?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke.
I'm sorry, to the manager. Mr. Manager, you said we're gonna be approving a budget tomorrow. When or what's the deadline that you're looking at for us to get an in-house finance director and not use a company? What timeline do you have that you're looking at for us to get a finance director to run our finance department, an in-house finance director? Are we going to just continue? I know you said we're about caught up on the budgets.
I mean audits, Commissioner. You mean audit?
I mean on the audits, yeah. But I'm saying, what's the timeline that we have? Or this is going to be the new norm for us? We're not going to have a finance director. We're going to have a company running our finance department. What's your timeline on getting a finance director, Mr. Manager?
So I will tell you this, Commissioner. My biggest efforts since being the manager here the past 6 months is trying to get our audits up to date, get our financials together, right? Get a 5-year plan done, which we have a budget director is dealing with that. So we've got to separate that out. So, we have a budget person that specifically deals with budget matters now, and that's been separated out of the finance department.
Right.
So what we're looking to do is at least get up to date to our audit. So we have one more audit to get done to be fully up to date in our audits. Okay. Once we get into a normal routine where we're actually caught up in reconciliations, get caught up in our finances, which we're very close to doing, we will continue to recruit. So the city never stopped recruiting for a finance director. We've had interview after interview. We've even had finalists that were scheduled to come down to interview that canceled their interview to come down. So the city has always been searching for a finance director all the way up until we ran to COVID-19, and we suspended all recruitment activities due to COVID-19. So we've always been recruiting for a finance director. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's always been the current finance consultant's opinion that the city needs a full-time finance director. So it's always been that opinion. It's finding the right person, keeping people engaged, they want to do it. And to be honest with you, I don't foresee a finance director coming in here until we're up to date with our audits and we got a 5-year recovery plan done, and they know they're not walking into a catch-22 where they have to play catch up. And until we'll give them a ship that's uprighted, I don't foresee a finance director coming in, because that's the feedback that we continuously get with applicants that are interviewing. We've even went to the point where we're interviewing applicants out of state. So once we get the ship righted, then somebody feel comfortable coming in to take over the ship. But very few finance people feel very reluctant. Very few CPAs are very reluctant to take a job where they don't even know where the city's going to go or what the direction the city is going. But I will tell you we're in a positive direction. I honestly say we're within 6 6 months of that. But I don't want you to necessarily quote me on that. Anything can happen. But me being optimistic is we're within 6 months of rebuilding our finance department. We're within 6 months of getting current on, within 6 to 8 months of getting current on our audits and all our financial requirements. And then we'll be able to usher in and recruit a finance director that can take the ship moving forward.
Well, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Manager, don't be optimistic. We were able to get a budget director, right?
Yeah.
We were able to get a budget director, right?
Yes, sir. And we're working on it.
As long as we're moving in the right direction, and like I said, I think it's time for an in-house finance director. Those are my sentiments. That's all. Thank you.
Understood.
All right. Anything else, manager, during his manager's report? All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any board reports?
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right. Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Manager. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mentioned, well, let's go back. I want to commend also Public Works, because they have been doing a great job with some of these projects. We've seen some of the pictures of the road work, so I want to commend them on that. And I'm grateful to hear about the pothole backup, because I did get a couple of concerns from that in the virtual Meet Me Monday. So I'm grateful for that. I did not hear anything, or could you give me an update on bus shelters? We've been at this for a long time, even predates you. Bus shelters, particularly on 22nd Avenue, but there are none. If you don't have it tonight, you can get it to us later, but I'd like
We have an update. Mr. Austin, I know, is actively working on finding a vendor to provide bus shelters on behalf of the city. Can you provide a brief update on that, Mr. Austin? You're muted. Unmute yourself.
As it relates to the bus benches, until we could find an appropriate vendor to come in and do the rollout of bus benches citywide where the benches were removed, we are going to strategically place benches that we are budgeted for. We're going to purchase some benches to place in those areas where they're much needed, especially in the elderly community. I spoke to the budget director about this, and we're going to use funds that we had originally budgeted for this project and start moving forward with that. We hope to get this done within the next 3 months.
Okay, yeah, because there's a lot of elderly in some of those areas that are standing up. You were having to go to work, so at least we can deal with that. Thank you for that. Mr. Manager, you also mentioned with the finance mention about payment plans for outstanding debt that's owed to the city, and I think she mentioned you had about 90,000 or something of payment plans or something of that nature. Are those just regular agreements that you have with folks? Are those an amnesty program that you're doing, or what is that specifically?
These are regular payment plans that we have scheduled with folk. We are in the process of trying to develop an amnesty program for past debts. We're also in the process of reconciling, past water billing, and I don't want to kind of get into too much in the weeds on that. So there are a lot of initiatives and a lot of verification and a lot of checks and balances that we have to do as far as our water billing system before we start tackling that $7 million amount and those other outstanding debts in regards to water.
So, but an amnesty program is being, I guess, considered as a part of that conversation?
Our amnesty program is being discussed to deal with overall city debt management, period. That's even with liens and various other debts and all that. But I'm just saying it's going to be a comprehensive program that's developed, not just dealing with one subject, but dealing with other amnesty-related programming issues that the commission have brought up as far as concerns in the past. And we're going to bring that up and roll that up into a comprehensive program.
Okay, and Also, I was looking at your report that you sent us. There seems to be an uptick, and I see when I ride around, an uptick on trash piles throughout the city. And a lot of them, I guess when I use the term that the hours to pick up at the county to get the money from. And I always had that challenge from day one of that agreement. Is there anything new on that front? Have you had any more discussion with the county on that? Because we still seem to bear the brunt of it. Are they offering any kind of support, suggestions with those kind of things, since they are getting the revenue for a lot of it?
I will defer that to my good Public Works Director and CIP Manager, because I know that's a constant discussion we have on a more constant basis than often. What's your communications that you've been experiencing with the county, Mr. Austin?
Until we are able to renegotiate the MOU, there's nothing that we could do about the county only enforcing and not being responsive for collection.
Maybe that's the county right there.
No, right as it stands right now, the county is only responsible for enforcing. They're not gonna collect anything in the commercial corridors, which is the brunt of our illegal dumping activity.
Okay, well, I see we are collecting, we are doing what we can. I guess you have to wait for the MOU. The final thing, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, final two things. Ingram Park, the lighting, have those bids closed or what have you? I know they were scheduled to close sometime at the end of April. Have we gotten responses back to move forward with the lighting on Ingram Park? Rehab?
You want me? I'll let you finish both your questions. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Yeah, that was the first one, and then the second one was related to the Alabama Cultural Arts Building project. I know that's ongoing. Is that on track? And when do you plan to have that discussion that you said you're going to have with the commission? Those are the two. The others I can send to you. And of course, I sent you the concerns from the meeting Monday. So
yes,
thank you.
So let me answer through the mayor. I'm going to answer backwards. So as far as the Cultural Arts Center, I was trying to sneak it on the agenda for tomorrow, but we've received legal guidance that we cannot discuss COVID-19 and the Cultural Arts Building in the same workshop, even if we separate it out. That's guidance from the clerk. So I would have to schedule a separate workshop to discuss it. I was trying to get it discussed for tomorrow because we are moving full steam ahead, and I do need guidance from the commission on what we're going to use the building for. So stay tuned, Commissioner. I did try to sneak it on for tomorrow. I'm going to have to schedule a separate workshop. And then that's going to require the clerk to poll the commission on a separate day other than Thursday.
Okay, thank you for that.
And then as far as Ingram Park lighting, I'll let Mr. Austin answer that question.
Ingram Park lighting, it's progressing. We are adapting to COVID-19 in response to receiving bids. Hence the reason this item was pushed out until the end of this month. But we've met with several of the contractors that are interested in doing the project, and it looks like it's going to be a good project, and it's going to come in where we would like to see it. Until the bid closes, I cannot discuss it any further because we're in the code of silence, but the project is progressing, and we have activity where we think we're going to get the right bids in to get the project completed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Anything else for the manager and the manager's report before we get to official board's reports?
Mr. Mayor, real quick, along the same lines as Commissioner Kelly and Ingram Park, Mr. Austin, well, Mr. Manager too, Mr. Austin, or I don't know how it's delegated, but are we looking at any grant opportunities or any other funding to supplement the, I know we got the FEMA reimbursements that we're also waiting on. But any other funding are we looking at this moment for Ingram Park? I know that, CDBG funds are available as well as foundation support, like the NFL Foundation offers a grant to resurface fields and provide capital money towards the rehabilitation of like concession stands and certain other park features. So if you can speak to that, I greatly appreciate it.
Right now, the only fund that we are possibly gonna get additional funding for Ingram Park would be from the general obligation bond. We recently had a conversation with the head of that bond, and they're amenable to funding the missing portion of historic City Hall should we go out to bid. That's something we're going to be bringing forward for a receipt of funds. They need to see that the commission is interested in receiving those funds, and we'll be bringing that forward. But they have enough money to where we could get some dollars to do what we need to do at Ingram Park. So that's going to be our second ask moving forward, to get some dollars to enhance the park.
Thank you.
That's where we are going right now, sir.
Anything else for the manager? All right, Madam Clerk, I'll reserve mine to my mayor's comments. Mayor's report. Madam Clerk, do we have any official board reports?
No, Mr. Mayor, we don't.
All right, moving on to the mayor commission reports. Commissioner, who wants to go first?
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. I just want to really commend everyone, managers, staff, elected officials, all of the efforts going forward that have been engaged in this COVID-19 with the feeding and all of our efforts. I want to commend all of the things we've been doing to make it better for our residents. We did hold our virtual Meet Me Monday on this past Monday. And as I said earlier, we're engaging more residents. We are going to be doing a reading through the Florida League of Cities with young people with the book that just put out. We were going to do it already, but because of the COVID-19, we had to push it back. But we're going to be doing that virtually with Zoom as well. So I just wanted to put that out there, those two things currently. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke.
I just would like to give kudos to myself, to all my colleagues, the manager, his staff, and the volunteers that have been there faithfully every Tuesday morning with the feeding. I mean, you see us out there, we're like a well-oiled team. So if we can run Opa-Locka the way we run that feeding, we'll be doing what they say, a jolly good job. Okay, but I just would like to extend kudos to my colleagues, the mayor and the manager and his staff, and all the volunteers in the great city of Opa-Locka for our Tuesday feeding. And we're still going. So to everybody, a great job. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just to echo my colleagues' concerns. My colleagues' comments. Thank you for all, banding together during these tough times. Our communities ultimately need us. So, thank you for being there. I know we all have families and we all have responsibilities outside of our duties here in the city of Opa-Locka. So definitely, thank you for your sacrifice. Many of you have families, so thank you for that. And as we continue to move forward, thank you, Mr. Manager, for leading this administration and our staff and our volunteers and making sure that we consistently have venues to reach out to our residents, to provide resources and making sure we're getting the proper resources in our cities to move things forward. So, thank you for that.
Commissioner Bath, you have anything?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, one more thing.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to tell Commissioner Kelly he didn't have to wait till I was sick to get Crabman 305 over there. For the wait till I not worry. Okay, Mr. Mayor.
He'll be back again.
Okay.
You have anything, Commissioner Bass? We can't hear you. You gotta unmute your mic.
Sorry about that. Just to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, just a big thank you to the community. And, you know, when we were getting tired on Tuesday, the mayor started singing and he just kind of peppers all up. And thank you for your vocals. Thank you so much. You know, hey, I'm telling you, we needed it and it came on time. Thanks to Crabman, Commissioner Kelly for the food and the volunteers. I've never seen such a hard working group of volunteers in all my life. I mean, we just owe them so much. Kudos to you, my colleagues, the staff, Opa-Locka, Parks and Recs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. I want to just again echo the comments of my colleagues. This is a very critical and important time. Tomorrow, May 14th, is a very special day in our history of the city of Opa-Locka. That is the day that we were founded. So this will be our 94th year as a city and as a community. So it is amazing to see where we are today and the work that we're continuing to put in to ensure that this place is an amazing place for our families and our communities to be raised in. And with that, we have some major challenges. We're literally facing one of the largest challenges we ever faced in the history of our city. We have a financial crisis that we're currently in. We have a flooding emergency that we're currently dealing with, and an international pandemic that we're addressing. And all hands are on deck. And it is beautiful to see how many of us have been stepping up, how many of our staff putting in overtime, how many volunteers have been coming in to put in the extra work, and our colleagues on the commission that's been advocating to make sure things are getting done. The manager's reports on the 4 major challenges that we're facing, including the operational audit, is spot on, because once we get across those challenges of our finance department and making sure that we are managing our money right, that releases funding for us and make sure we have the funding to do all the things that we want to do. Taking care of our water billing. As you know, we got almost millions of dollars outstanding that we need to address. It's important that we are on top of our residents about what that is and what's our plan for that. Our flooding and DERM moratorium for many years, we've been dealing with many businesses that could not open up because we haven't been dealing with our pump stations. So kudos to Mr. Austin and making sure that that gets addressed, and we have this RFP out to ensure that we have professionals that come in and do a comprehensive evaluation to address the flooding throughout the city of Opa-Locka. And then finally, our streets. And that's been probably the biggest highlight of this administration, is how we've been working on streets that have been tore up for decades, potholes, and now we are addressing all of those. So it is amazing that we're moving forward to do those things while dealing with this operational audit and this 5-year recovery plan, because those are the linchpins that can affect our livelihood as a city and continuing this 94-year history that we currently have. So just a few things for the manager that I wanted to make sure. I love the fact that we're moving on Ingram Park and we have this cultural arts building online. I'm still looking for that comprehensive park plan that will give us a clear idea of our facilities, what we can do, and the costs associated with making sure that we can bring all of our parks online in the foreseeable future with diverse opportunities for our whole community. So looking forward to that park plan so that we can have some confirmations on that. Like many of my colleagues talked about this weekend, And I know a few of my colleagues has talked a lot about enforcement and patrols with our police department. So I would love to be able to see a report on the patrols. I know last year we put in place a legislation where we can track the patrol because we saw there was a need for more patrols throughout the city. So I would look forward to seeing that report for the whole commission so that we can see how our officers are really going around and ensuring that the whole city is being patrolled on a regular basis, especially during this time of crisis. Along with that is a call center. When residents don't have a way to let us know about those concerns, it's put on online. So we need that number in order to let all of our residents, all of our business owners be able to call up our police, call up our city government, and also through social media. That's why I'm happy that we have a PR person now that can help us with this so that we can make sure that that residents have a direct access to the government. They can get a response, and we have the systems in place to hold those people that are responsible for those calls accountable. So I'm looking forward to seeing those things manifest. One major thing that we actually did do with the consent agenda today was literally install a calling infrastructure throughout the city of Opa-Locka that will make us more mobile as a government in regards to this new normal, so that people can work from home and still be able to respond, transfer numbers, and everything is very seamless. So kudos to the manager and IT for bringing about those pieces of legislation that we passed as a commission today to ensure that we upgrade our infrastructure and be able to establish a call center for our residents during this COVID-19. The last thing I'm trying to wrap up, and I know it's getting a little late. Last thing I want to make sure that we do as a city and everybody on this call is to give much respect and thanks to all the people that assisted us in bringing together a testing center in the city of Opa-Locka. As you know, when this started, with the COVID-19, testing was the foundation of making sure that we have an understanding of what's going on. And through that advocacy, we were able to get one of our largest drive-up testing centers in Dade County, right here at the Hard Rock. But we know that's a drive-up. And we wanted to be able to make sure that our residents within the city of Opa-Locka can walk up to something. And we experience this when we have our food distributions and residents don't have cars. So we were able to advocate to get a testing center right here in the city of Opa-Locka, one of the few in North Dade. And so I want to make sure, please give a call out to Commissioner Barbara Jordan, Mayor Jimenez's office, especially Deputy Mayor Maurice Kemp, our state representatives, Oscar Brandon, Senate Representative Oscar Brandon, and also Representative Chevron Jones, actually outside of this district, that was critical to getting that testing center here. So shout out to those, and also the emergency personnel up at the state, Mr. Jared Moskowitz, who is the Director of Emergency Services. So all these people came together along with the commission to push and advocate for a testing center right here in the city of Opa-Locka. So it's amazing to see so many people come together, and now we have a testing center that will be online on Saturday with the soft open to make sure that all of our staff and all of our first responders, emergency personnel are able to get tested on Friday. The key thing is that we need to push this message out to our residents through all of our channels immediately to ensure that they are there on Saturday, because the first few days is we were trying to make sure that Opa-Locka residents get priority, but this is a testing center for this whole area. So we want to make sure that as many of our residents get that call. The number is 305-499-8767. Again, that's 305-499-8767 to make that appointment. And that they continue to make those calls and walk up. This is a testing facility where only about like 120 something will be appointments, but we'll still have about 75 that will be walk-ups. So people can still walk up in the city of Opa-Locka, and we want to make sure that we get all of our residents to come out this weekend to get tested, so we can get a much more clear picture of the effects of this COVID-19 within the city of Opa-Locka. So again, much respect for everybody that's been engaged. This is the beauty about a government going into our 94 history, is that it's literally hundreds of us, thousands of us coming together to make sure our city is good. So much respect to all the staff. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for following through on all these things and organizing staff to do this, to our volunteers that come out with our food distribution, and also the expansion of this call center so that we can ensure that our residents, our seniors, and everybody have a resource within the city of Opa-Locka. The last piece that I've been requesting is testing for our senior facilities. We haven't actually got that completely finalized. The testing center was a big accomplishment. I'm hoping that we can also test our senior facilities there and get a very accurate understanding of the most vulnerable population within the city of Opa-Locka. So I just want to give a lot of thanks to everybody, much respect. Let's continue this. We're going to have a conversation tomorrow at our workshop. So for all those that are listening online, if you have any thoughts and comments about COVID-19, we have weekly workshops that you can come to and learn more about. And thanks now to Hip Rockstar will help us get the word out about these different things. So I'm excited about this partnership and what we're doing to move this city forward. This is a beautiful thing, and I'm happy, y'all, to see how this city has been progressing since I first got involved. Boy. So amazing. Thank you very much. That concludes my mayor's report. Do we have any board appointments or applications, Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. With that said, then we have reached the end of our meeting. I want to thank everybody. I think I see Commissioner Bass got a little hand up. Go ahead, Commissioner Bass.
Not to prolong anything, but I would love if it's a possibility that when this is over, we can celebrate our city's 94th birthday or 94th, whatever you want to call it. I think we need to do something. If it's a month from now, 6 months from now, hopefully it's not that far out, we can celebrate our city and the accomplishment and our residents at large. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that hopefully that can fit in that and other amendment we just made to at least get some graphics out about the city and
right.
So that everyone knows that we are 94 years strong within the city of Opa-Locka, and we're dealing with this crisis together. So thank you very much, Commissioner Bass, for reaffirming that. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Bass, seconded by Vice Mayor Davis. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Motion to adjourn.
You're late, Commissioner Burt.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.